Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now.
You got to do weird shit to get your sound sometimes. The guitar player, Matt from Kings of Leon, is still so punishingly loud. It's insane. And I respect it.
What's happening, all my ghouls and goblins? Thank you for tuning in to Hyphenate with me, your host, Randy Randall. This is our episode for Thursday, October 31st, 2024. Happy Halloween to everybody out there who celebrates. This is exciting. I did not plan ahead well enough for a big Halloween Thursday event. I should have known last year. You know, it was Halloween was the day before that the show launched, or before the show, you know, the Thursday. I should have been preparing for the whole year. I wonder if next year the Halloween will be on a Friday, which will be more exciting, but I will work. This is my promise. In 12 months, next year's Halloween show will be way more Halloween spooky centered. Maybe we can even get away with a whole Halloween month of spooky hyphenates, people who do spooky hyphenated things. But that is not to throw any shade whatsoever at my guest today. He is the spookiest gear nerd I could find on the internet. He is the one and only Mr. Josh Newton. Josh is a guitarist, a bass player, and also a guitar tech. And he has an awesome story. And he's also a huge gear nerd, which I think kind of goes without saying. I think all of those things sort of imply, well, this guy must be a giant gear nerd. So obviously that is true. And we nerd out here. So the trigger warning, if you are afraid of talking about musical equipment like guitars and basses and amps and preamps and tubes and speakers and cabinets and things like this, this is, you know, this might be your form of a haunted house. Might be the scariest episode you've ever heard if those things scare you, or if you are, you know, low in funds and are afraid you will be triggered to want to buy new equipment, new gear, new pedals, then this is your trigger warning. Do not listen to this episode if you fear hearing about awesome gear will make you want to buy more gear. Then, you know, this is not the episode for you. But for those of you who are strong in constitution and brave of heart, wander forth into the dark, spooky woods. It is this Josh Newton interview. I want to thank DistroKid. Remember, if you want to get your music up online, go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate and put your music up online. You know, you got hard drives of it there just sitting. Get it up there. Get it out. Get it in people's ears. People want to hear it. I want to hear it. Send me your links. I'm excited. I'm always excited when I get new music to listen to. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope everybody's having a great Halloween tonight, or has had a good Halloween season. It's a funny one. It's almost that bittersweet sort of thing. It's like the day after Christmas. You know, Halloween is the big event, but it's also that like, oh, it's the end. It's the end of all the Halloween stuff. You know, I've been terrorizing my co-host Aaron Farley on the halftimes about, you know, the haunted mansions and mazes and spooky things. Events just really start, you know, mid-August here in Southern California, and now today. This is it. This is the end. You usually get the ones that kind of linger through the weekend, especially, you know, I would imagine probably get away with a Friday, Saturday, you know, extra day after Halloween party, but it just doesn't feel the same, you know, for me. Maybe I'm old school, but But yeah, it's been a fun one this year. It's great. Get to take the kids out tonight trick-or-treating. And No Age is playing tonight in Venice. So if you are on the west side of Los Angeles and still do not have plans for this Halloween evening, you should come out to the Venice West, where No Age will be playing. We played 2 Halloweens ago at the Lodge Room in L.A. in the Highland Park area. That was a lot of fun. I got to wear my shark costume. I do not know. There have been many costume ideas kicked around for this one. Dean and I have been practicing and getting ready for tonight's show. So it will be a surprise. We'll see what we end up landing on. I think it mostly depends on how quickly and easily the kids get into their costume. How many times they change their mind on which costumes they actually want to wear before we leave the house. And I will determine how much time I have to get ready for my costume. We got to get the kids ready first and then just throw on whatever the parents can afterwards. But it's fun. Lots of candy has already been eaten. Lots of events have been gone to. We've worn lots of costumes already. This is probably one of my favorite times of the year. And then from here on out, it's just a sprint to New Year's. I feel like, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, it's just blink and you miss it kind of things. They really do come fast. Well, I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, if you like the show, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody who comes trick-or-treating tonight that you are a fan of the Hyphenate podcast. Maybe I should leave some Hyphenate stickers out tonight at the Halloween candy bowl. As people come up to grab candy, they can also take a sticker with them and let them know that there is a great podcast out there on the air. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to my interview with the spookiest guitar nerd and tech in the business, the one and only Mr. Josh Newton. Here we go. Josh Newton, thanks so much for jumping on Hyphenate. How you doing, man?
I'm well. It's good to be here chatting with you.
Yeah. I think we're internet friends. I think I came across your internet account and thought this guy looks cool. He has cool guitars and basses.
He's obsessed with gear.
Yeah. I could recognize, I could smell my own type of person. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like we have the same condition. But yeah, I mean, tell me some about some of the gear. I mean, I guess that's what I just want. Let's just jump into that. Let's just go gear first, and then we'll go backwards from there.
The guitars I'm most obsessed with are Travis Beans, and being left-handed, there aren't many Travis Beans, and if there are, they're like $15,000. But Kevin Burkett made me a couple, and I love them very much, and I used them a bunch, and I recently was gifted a Les Paul, and now I'm just crazy Les Paul obsessed.
I've fallen down the Les Paul rabbit hole. It is a long, dark road.
But like, I've been obsessed with these obscure guitars just to go full circle and find out that I'm like Pumpkin Spice Guitars, the Les Paul.
Yes. But I feel
I've been living a lie this whole time.
Yeah, like Les Pauls and Marshalls were a thing that were so ubiquitous, at least for me and my, kind of growing up. It's classic rock. It's Jimmy Page. It's all of these things. And what subsequently I think what happened because of that is, our parents' generation ahead of us, or whatever, that age, they just made so many of them and they made so many bad ones. It's like if you it's like a car or any kind of mass-produced piece of machinery. Like, there's inspiration for the good thing, but you can't make them cheaply and that rapidly and that many of them and make them well. So there's tons and tons of bad Marshalls, I think, and bad Les Pauls. But there are a few. There's a lane, that you can kind of go, oh, that's the good one. But they all look fucking the same. You would never be able to tell the difference. It's like I don't know what the right thing would be if it's like just 15 million Nissan Sentras, but like 100 of them are actually like rad cars.
I mean, it's going to happen.
There's
going to be both ends of the spectrum. There's going to be garbage and there's going to be amazing ones, and then there's the ones that most people have.
Yeah. And but it really got to the end when I got to the end of my rainbow, I got an R8 and an R9. And they were in the mid 2000s run of those, supposedly Goodwood years. That means, you become blues lawyer, cork sniffer pretty quick once you realize you're talking good tone wood on Les Paul reproductions. and the glue and all of that stuff. But I came to the end of it and I was like, all right, that's cool. I love it. I play it, I play one of them more than the other one. And it's just, there's something it's the handmadeness of it. You get back to that thing of like, everyone can tell you like, oh, this is the number and this is the day of the year in the factory. But each one was really kind of a crafted piece of wood, that was shaped by somebody different. So totally. there's a wide variety of makes and models. They're not really all to spec. And maybe that's a good thing, even for something that big and ubiquitous. The fact that there's still like a handmade process.
For some reason, I tend to gravitate to the Norlin era Les Pauls, which everyone says is garbage.
I love the Vlute.
The Vlute's my jam. Yeah. It's very cool.
That's what first brought me to Gibson was the Norlin era SGs, specifically the Firebrand SGs. That, I had an older brother who had a friend whose brother was in a band, and he like left this like rad, Firebrand SG like at the jam house, and we got to go in there and sneak in when they were like passed out or somewhere else, and I picked it up and I was like, oh, this feels so great. It had like T-Rex carved in the back of the headstock. And nice. It was just this like this is a real guitar. I just loved how it felt and how it played and how the T-tops and smelled. And so I kind of became obsessed with those. And I think that was, but what was cool is in the late 90s, early 2000s, nobody gave a shit about those. So I was at my own, I felt like I found my own weird little pocket. Cause by that point, all the offsets in the vintage Fenders had gone through the post Nirvana, post Sonic Youth world where those were just, through the roof. But I found a weird vintage, decent guitar that nobody cared about. I was like, oh, I like that. I can plant a flag over there.
That's perfect.
But right. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's fun though. But yes, but I've never played a Travis Bean. How did you first come to a Travis Bean then?
I first saw Jesus Lizard when I was 17, and I think they were touring like pre-Goat coming out, doing some shows. Ooh, okay. And Dwayne Dennison had that green one, and I was like, what is that thing? Whatever that is, I need it. I had just started a band, and we were trying to, get it together, and I instantly became fully enamored with them, and It took me, 30 years to get one, but I finally got a couple.
It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, for a while there was a Hamer that had, that like the aluminum neck, but with like the wood sort of runners, the stringers that was available around the time. I was like, I could have gotten that, but it just felt so dead and just felt so like not fun.
I bought one.
Okay.
It was fucking garbage. It was garbage.
Okay, good. Thank you. I passed on it and I've kicked myself like maybe that was the thing. I was like, I don't think you have to trust your hands, if it's not in the left hand or in the neck fretting hand,
Yeah. I have a couple friends that play them and they're all about them. And I'm like, man, that's cool. If that's what you like. I mean, who knows? People like what they like. So
of course. No. I mean, again, I think I have tiny fingers, and I like small radiused, little, toothpick neck guitars. It's and the 73, 74 SG is that, and it's great. And my little stubby fingers can play all over that thing like I'm Van Halen or something, or I'm just pulling off these 6x6 fret span. Like, whoa, I could do this thing. Or Paul Gilbert would be the better one. Sorry, not really Van Halen, but Paul Gilbert's hands are huge and just goes from the 3rd to the 10th fret.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Do you have a casino? Is that what you play most of the time? Or at least
I went to when I started the No Age band as a 2-piece, it was we wanted to make a bunch of sound, and so I was layering up guitars in the studio, and so I really was drawn to these T-topped Gibson SGs. But so I would write and record that first, and then I put an acoustic underneath it, kind of a Dinosaur Jr.-y thing, and then I put a little chimier thing. And so I was layering all these different things. I was like, how can I recreate that live? So I was like, maybe there's a semi-hollow body thing I could find. And so I went to a casino, and that thing just fed back, and it was a mess. It was for that first tour we did. I had SG for some songs, and this casino for other songs, and it was the worst of both worlds. And then I found these this Sheridan 2 which is kind of
okay.
the Epiphone version of like a 335, a semi-hollow body thing. And it was a funny random thing. I was like just scrolling Craigslist and the things, you do at the time. And again, solid, Epiphone semi-hollows were pretty affordable, $300, $400, but you're under $500. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to take chances here in this experiment. And I drove down to a church parking lot in Orange County, California here. And it was, this guy gave me this whole story, like, oh yeah, one of the backing guitar players in Black Crowes custom ordered this thing, and it looked different than any of the other ones I saw, because it was a brown burst kind of thing, and it had Clausen tuners and really hot pickups. I was like, this sounds cool. And I took that back to practice and ran it through the Model T and the Beta Lead and then and the Ampeg, and it all sounded great. I was like, this is huge. It's doing the chimey thing I wanted to get from the acoustic on top with the kind of open. It didn't automatically, the decay wasn't so short either. There's a resonance to it. Like with SG, you can kind of it really can really sucks up the decay. So with Sheridan 2, there was a longer decay and still had the chimey brights, and I was like, this is it. So I've stuck to these Sheridan 2s, and I've later researched those were made in Korea, late 90s, made in Korea factory Epiphone ones that are great with some hotter pickups. There was a little bit, a few little customizations to it. And so, okay, this is fun. Just enough.
I think I actually had one of those, and the neck was like huge. It was like a baseball bat.
Oh, funny. Because for some reason, these aren't that. The dots that they have, so the Epiphone also does a thing called the dot, which is just named after the inlay, and those necks are really huge. For some reason, the Sheridan 2 has this kind of more flowery, kind of like a inlay on the headstock. It does this kind of So and that one, those ones for me have just been just right in the pocket. They work, and so I just keep snapping them up. Or if I did for a while, when we were touring and making money, I would just buy as many Sheridan 2s as I could and just kind of have them wherever I, just have a bunch of them. And then at some point when the touring was slowing down and we had friends' places, I would start stashing them. So I have like one in Antwerp, one in New York, one in Chicago. Like, okay, like wherever we start tour, like our kind of tour, run bases, like. It's like, okay, I can just kind of like they don't take up that much room and they're fun to play even if they're not plugged in. So, give them to a friend and just say, okay, when I come back, I'm going to grab this from you for 2 weeks and then you can have it again. So.
I was in Kansas City recently getting ready for some Shiner stuff, and I was staying at a friend's house, and this is stashing guitars at people's houses. Something fell under the bed, and I was like, oh, let me grab that. And I was like, oh, what's in this guitar case? Oh, it's one of my guitars under his bed in his extra room. Oh, whoops. I guess I wasn't missing this one. Yeah.
This is a cool guitar. I used to have one just like this. And
I had no idea where it was at all. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, I think I've bemoaned this many times on the podcast, but I hated flying with guitars. I just got to that point of I have a soft case of Reunion Blues bag, because again, it's like just there's no good way to look like a touring musician who nobody recognizes. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've had this experience many times in airports where you're just like, they look at you, they know you're somebody. You have maybe you even have a laminate hanging off of your backpack. You look like you're a working person on a crew, but no one knows who you are. So they all stare at you and no one says anything. Maybe someone asks you about Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Page or something, like, and you're just like, you're not gonna have a good story to tell anybody. You're only wasting my time. I feel bad already. My self-esteem is probably low because no one came to the show. But here I got to fly 6 hours ago to another show no one's gonna go to, and now I got to talk to mom and dad and somewhere and just be like, yeah, it's not working out. You're right. I don't know what. So I found if I eliminate the guitar, you just cut down on a lot of those conversations.
Yep.
For me, maybe that's my own insecurity.
I flew home from a tour 3 days ago with a guitar case and a pass hanging off my bag. I was that guy. So I'm quite familiar with it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Dude, what's the conversation? What's your conveation like? Well, usually, do people talk to you? Usually TSA.
It'll be like, what do you got there?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a Travis Bean. And that kind of shuts it down pretty quick because they don't know what that is. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're like, what kind of music you play? You play in a band? Would I know?
Yeah.
Would I hear your band? And you're like,
it's probably noisy rock stuff. I never know what to say.
Yeah. I've taken to saying punk rock because that's an easy thing where moms or somebody will know something of that and they'll want to talk about Blink 182 or sometimes like hey man, way to go, that's what it's all about, living the dream. All right, there you go. Or they want to talk, but sometimes it'll open it up to fun conversations. I got a guy helping us out with our cable early on at the house when I was trying to figure out how to get I wasn't cable, the Wi-Fi guy. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned punk rock and he's like, oh yeah, I used to see Black Flag at the at this club in the 80s. I was like, this is a conversation I want to have. This is great. Yep. Let's talk about this conversation. Yes. So yeah, I can go. Punk rock is usually an easy way to kind of just everybody feels good after that. Yeah, that transaction is punk.
Yeah,
cool.
There's a finite thing there. It's Mohawks and all that stuff. It's great.
Yeah, I talked to a dad at Cub Scouts and I was talking about a band I recorded and I was like, they're like post punk, kind of like Wire, and he's kind of looking at me. He's like, you mean like just punk or something? And I was like, no, there was a fine window, Joy Division, kind of like the early, seeds of what would become goth culture, PIL, it was literally, PIL is a great example because it's Johnny Rotten from Sex Pistols into now this, kind of new wave. He just kind of looked at me like, I'm like, okay, you're right. I'm an asshole. I'm sorry. I don't know. I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to have the conversation, but he didn't want to have the conversation that I was having. He wanted to have a different conversation. I'm like,
there are two different planes of existence,
Or just, but it also came, he's like, well, why do they call it that? I'm like, I don't know. Some dickhead music journalist 40 years ago thought of these terms. I'm just going by the rules of the game that were given to me. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. Like, wasn't that a weird thing to call it post-punk? Because that means punk's over. And I'm like, dude, I can't debate you on music journalism like semantics here. Like that's really,
not for me.
That's not the point. Because you don't know any of these bands I'm talking about. So you latched onto the weirdest part of the conversation, the weirdest words I said, and just want to talk about those. And I get that. But I'm not gonna be able to answer that question for you because I didn't come up with those terms. Like, Jesus Christ, talk to Alan Freed. Like who came up with rock and roll? Who gives a fuck? Like how far down the rabbit hole do you really want to go on that one?
Yeah,
we're in trouble.
We can all go to CB's right now.
Yeah, exactly. Or go to John Barbados' showroom. That used to be CBGB's. Yeah.
Newark Airport.
Oh no, I haven't been to Newark in a long time. Do they have a big punk?
There's like a little there's a restaurant that you order for an iPad that's a CBGB's. And they have like merch and like 3 Ramones records to sell, and
God bless them. Man. I think it's worth it. I think everything should go straight to the mall or straight to Temu or something. You know what I mean? It's like, more power to you. Like just let everybody know.
Yeah,
there's a flattening of the curve there. No one's cool. No one's hip.
I kind of have a Temu experience from the other day. I bought a Chibson Explorer.
Like, okay. Yes.
I got what I paid for.
Was it balsa wood? Did it literally just crack in half like when it arrived to you, or was there like what?
The neck was so backbowed that I was like, I wrote him back and still like, hey, I wasn't expecting, a Gibson quality guitar or even an Epiphone quality guitar. Although I think it's probably made in the same factory as Epiphone.
That's what Joey's here. Yeah.
It's what I hear. I think it's finally starting to come out a little bit and be almost playable, but,
wow.
I was like, hey, I want to return it. And I've done emails for like 3 days back and forth. Like, how about if we just give you some money back? So, I took some money back.
They'll just send you another bad guitar. Like, just keep that one. We'll send you another bad one. Now you have 2 bad guitars.
That's kind of what I was hoping for. Two bad guitars makes one right. I don't know.
Maybe you could part them out and put one decent one together. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know, man. Yeah, buying stuff online has not gone well for me. I had a late night tour, like after from the venue to the hotel. I found this again, like Firebrand 335S. It was basically just like Gibson, but shaped in a weirder way. They're these even weirder guitars. And I saw it on eBay, and it was just this moment of like high from the show or something. I was like, I'm going to bid $700 on this thing. Like, I'll probably get outbid. I mean, these things are worth way more than that. They're so weird. And the next morning, bleary eyed, getting back in the car and looking at this email, like, who bought something on eBay? I didn't buy anything on eBay. I was like, oh fuck, I won. God damn it. I forgot. Why did I even, shit. And so we get back from tour and this guitar is waiting there. And it's got a giant chunk out of the neck. Like, I didn't look at the pictures, you know what I mean? It's really just, it's fine. It's a fine guitar and it played and it did the job, but it was not, you know what I mean? If I would have had it in my hand, for 30 seconds, I would have known all of those things.
Yep.
So that really soured me on the online experience, because half the fun of buying a guitar is you're like feeling it, resonate through the body into the neck and doing all the stuff that guitars do. And you go, oh, this is a good one. It's such a tactile thing. Never again. It's like buying art on the radio or something. Like, there's a beautiful picture of a sunset, and there's a girl and a beach ball.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's really a great piece of art. You should buy it. I'm like, okay, wait, that wasn't the thing I thought it would be at all. Yeah, that's so funny. So okay, so Travis Bean. So where did you grow up? Where did this all start?
I'm originally from Massachusetts, and
which part? Which part of Mass?
I'm from New Bedford, Mass, which is 40 miles outside of Boston, 30 miles away from Providence, Rhode Island. So I would always go to shows in Providence or Boston, and
that's cool.
I saw the Jesus Lizard in Boston at that show, and that sent me down the road.
So that was
first
had you
a million times.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing them. My buddy had the Lash EP on CD. And I remember it was like, I think Monkey Trick was on that. And I think I was really one of those kind of clear, like lightning bolt moments. But whatever this is, like this, because I knew Nirvana, I knew Sonic Youth. I'd kind of had my alternative rock card punched. But I was like, wait a second, this is different. This is not those things.
Yeah.
And it really kind of and then, so I remember listening to them a bunch and just trying to find all the CDs I could, because that was the CD time, and just making mixtapes of everything. And then, so right before Goat. So that's so interesting, because Goat was such a seminal record. So had you heard it on college radio or from friends?
I had, because
Nirvana wasn't even connected then. That was after.
No, it was pre-Nirvana. I mean, I think Bleach was probably out. But a friend of mine all of our friends were like college DJs, so they knew about shit that I had no idea about. And that was how I had heard Scratch Acid and The Birthday Party. And my older sister was pretty goth. So
that helps.
There was a lot of the Joy Division, and
Susie,
Bauhaus. Yeah. So that's kind of great. Like, I come from a weird cross between like loving all that super goth stuff, but also liking Slayer. So it's kind of a strange mishmash there.
Yeah. But I get that's a great little brother sort of reaction to it all. Like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Sisters of Mercy or whatever, but Love and Rockets, but have you heard this? Rain and Blood? Like, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And still making her take me to see Motley Crue on the Theater of Pain tour and stuff like that. So thank you, Gretchen, for trying to correct my past a little bit.
That's amazing. So, so you'd heard them and then seeing them, and did they play a lot of that stuff from Goat?
I think they did. I don't really remember. I just remember being like kind of scared of David Yao, which is still true to this day.
That's the idea. It's meant, you're meant to be, yeah. As the character on stage, yeah. He's a scary person.
Kicked with his boots before. I guess I could still be. I went and saw them in Nashville at this first reunion show again, and I was like, I'm going to stand in the back, because I've stood up front plenty. I know how this goes. I can watch it from afar.
Yeah, that's so cool. I saw them. So I was obsessed as a kid, and then they were part of the Lollapalooza run of the Sonic Youth, whatever. I think it was 95, 94, one of those in there, and it was so funny because they were early in the day. I think maybe they were second on. Or something. It was like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, and then Jesus Lizard, and then Beck or something. And then we were in the nosebleed seats, but they had the big, wolf with eyes popping out, the Max Fleischer cartoon backdrop, it's huge. I don't know, whatever that is, like 60 feet by 80 feet, the big festival, like backdrop. And I was like, this is great, but this is not the right setting to see this band. I could already tell that at that young age. I was like, this is the wrong place to see him, but I love this band. And that's so rad. And Mac was still on drums for that, and so it felt cool, and I was excited. And then the rest of the day, I got hit with so much music. It took years to sort of decipher what everything it was that I saw that day. I saw Pavement. I'd never seen Pavement before, and my friend's older sister was like, "Oh, you cut your hair. This is a song you like. This. You're a skater, and you just cut your long hair." And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You sound fucking annoying. This band's annoying. They have cactuses on stage. I can't, it was hard to interpret through everything else that was going on.
I never got Pavement. I mean,
Oh no,
not to
still okay.
talk shit.
That's a
It just
no.
for some
Bands,
reason
they're
it
bands.
just never really clicked with me. But I do like that "Cut Your Hair" song actually, which
Of course,
is
yeah.
could be their worst song. I don't even know.
Yeah,
But
they hit for me a couple years later. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, they're a funny one. But Guided by Voices, is that more your speed or no? Not at all.
yeah, mostly because sometimes they sounded like Chavez, and
Mm-hmm.
for me, Chavez and like that was a high watermark for me for like wrong pop songs.
Okay, that's cool.
And I stole their guitar tuning and never stopped using it. So
Amazing. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'll let you get back to this. So Boston, growing up in Boston, and then when do you first start playing guitar?
I had always had guitars because I was obsessed with Kiss,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I knew that's what I was going to do somehow.
Did you have an Iceman?
I never did.
Okay. Sorry.
I was looking. I may have been looking on Alibaba or whatever for
They make tons of them. Again, that's another one of those ones. Like I don't know which ones are the good ones, but they have tiny little necks.
Oh well,
the first time I
saw Urge Overkill, they came out full orange stacks, and he had a blue Iceman, the triple coil pickup. It was the coolest thing in the world, and I was like, "That is the." Yeah. I mean, I'd even forgot Paul Stanley even used that guitar at that point. It was just like the dude from Urge Overkill had it, and it looked so cool. Their guitar. Yeah, it was very very cool. I had guitars. I took lessons at 11. The guy just would shred solos in front of me. Like I paid him to shred in front of me and bum me out. So I kind of just did enough to like learn a couple chords, and I was like, fuck it, I'm starting my band now. And I started having bands when I was like 13 or 14, not like real bands, but you know, friends in the neighborhood. And you play drums, you know, here's a bass. And
variations of the Batman theme. No. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Those are great.
And I remember telling the drummer, I was like, hey, we should write some songs. And he's like, what? Like he had no concept that you could write music. Like,
yeah,
it was, I would come up with a guitar part and be like, I don't know what to do to that. And I'd have to like, kind of be like, well, it's sort of like this, and tell him, I don't know. It was strange that he just never had the idea that he could come up with an original thought for a drum beat. So, I mean, not to cast aspersions on him, but it was just,
there's a lot of professional musicians who've gotten a long way with that same thought, that same way of thinking.
This is true. Yes. Maybe I was the one who was wrong from the get-go.
Yeah. You can't just play someone else's song and call it your name and just make up your own words and call it your own thing. Like maybe,
yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't know how on brand that would become here. 40 years later.
he was ahead of the curve. He didn't know.
He really was. Yeah. So then I stopped playing guitar so much, and I got obsessed with skateboarding. And then I heard Metallica.
What era of skateboarding is this?
This is late 80s. Like Nodis was a pro, and Vallely was a pro, and
Streets of Fire.
Yeah. Oh my god, that video is amazing. On top of the thing, so good.
Yeah, all that fire hose, Brave Captain.
Yep,
it's a great song. I learned a lot about music through skate videos too. That was
totally. It's wild.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And it's funny because like working for bands years later, it turns out the same thing happened with Band of Horses. Somebody had used one of their songs in a skate video, and like it exploded partially because of that.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the funeral, but wild. So I stopped playing music, obsessed with skateboarding for a long time, kept getting hurt, and then I just picked up the guitar again, and I never really put it down.
That's so much of my story. I dislocated my shoulder when I was 16. And that pretty much ended my skating career. I thought I'd be a pro, or like
I was definitely going to be a pro
in the fantasy in my mind, kind of thing, probably from 13 to 16, I was obsessed, and that's all I wanted to do, and that's all I did. And then the shoulder dislocation really fucked it up because it kept dislocating every time I would fall, or if I'd raise it above my head here, it still cracks now when I do that. I'm like popping, popcorn here. But yeah, that put me out, and I had to think like, okay, well, if it's not going to be a professional skateboarder, maybe this guitar thing that I've been kind of plunking around on, maybe I should put more attention into that.
Yeah,
like my life. It really felt like a fork in the road. It was like, well, okay, now we're going this way.
I mean, I was positive I was going to be a pro on Powell any day. I never entered a contest or anything like that, but I was pretty sure I was going to be a pro.
It was going to happen. That's what was your injury? What was the
Wrists, knees.
yeah?
I have a knee that goes out if you look at it the wrong way.
Oh no.
But this thumb, my fret thumb, will just go backwards whenever
Oh
it wants to. Yeah. I'm still pretty messed up. So
yeah. But enough you could keep it together enough to play to get on stage.
Sometimes,
yeah. Wild. Okay, so then from there, you graduate high school and you have a band, or is this into college?
I didn't do college. I started a band and we put out a 3-song 7-inch, and I started living in a minivan, basically. Like we put out a 3-song 7-inch and we read Book Your Own Fucking Life and we went on tour, and that was it. Like I never really went home. I mean, I did, but
yeah,
I was ready to join the circus from day one. And I kind of, it's weird. I've been touring now for, I don't know, 30 plus years. So it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of the show Hyphenate, is about people that do more than one thing. And in just looking at your Instagram, quickly, I was like, oh yeah, no, that totally fits. So then I did a little Wikipedia run too. I just want to make sure I'm like, oh God, Jesus Christ, this guy's done everything. Like you've been on stage, behind the stage, but it seems like you pretty much live out of backpacks. You found
pretty
a
much,
way to just continually to stay on tour. Like
I never go home
when you say that.
Yeah. It's cool. It's with the teching stuff, being a guitar tech, I feel like I get paid to be away from home because the work isn't like work to me. Like I like dealing with all that stuff, and it's just, I feel like I'm just paid to be gone more than anything.
That's the biggest. That's you're selling your time. You're selling your services to not be home.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I always felt. I mean, on tour, it was the show was free. Like I loved getting up and playing music every night. It was the 8 hours of driving and loading in and out and all that other stuff. Like that's what the work came from. That's where I was glad. Like if I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that for free. But getting up on stage and playing songs with my friends, for 45 minutes to an hour every night.
That's awesome.
Me? And people scream and they clap and they applause. They're happy to see your face. Like, oh my God, who's gonna say this is torture? That's great. That's the ego boost.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But I always recognize too, like our friends and crew folk that would come with us. I was like, you guys have it the worst. Like you have to do all the hard work and all of the driving and all of the schlepping and the loading and stuff, but you don't get the people screaming and clapping or whatever, all that. The ego adrenaline doesn't happen for you guys. Like that sounds hard. Not to be a dick about it, but I was just kind of like, I was dawning on me as we were doing this. It's like, you guys work just as hard, if not harder, than us as in the band, and you get paid, and that's it. It's one of those hard kind of realities of the thing.
I mean, but the thing is,
I don't think we pay you enough for this. Like, I wouldn't do it for what we're paying you. This is hard.
For anybody that like comes out with us, they're definitely getting paid, and we'll see what we get to divide up afterwards. Like, even for a band as small as mine, we need at least someone to come sell the merch. So, but he's definitely getting paid. And tips. Obviously, we wouldn't ever want to take someone's tips. I see bands doing that, and I can't believe it.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's apparently a thing. I had no idea. I wouldn't even remotely think I would be entitled to that money, but that's another conversation, I guess. But yeah, the 6 to 8 hours in the van every day can be a little bit of a drag. Just feeling like completely shut down.
Well, you must have figured it out too. I mean, because it's the thing that was like, I didn't care at some point. It wasn't about skill, even like with people in the bands or the crew you had with you, whether it was the best front of house guy or the best merch seller, or the best driver. It was really needed people who you could hang out with. Oh yeah, it is so social. I mean, that was that must have been something you just learned intuitively early on, that like you were a good hang, as they say, or whatever.
I mean, there's 22.5 hours left in the day beyond whatever, between sound check and the show and all that stuff. And you're sitting within 3 feet of all these people all the time. So it's pretty,
you better not smell, and you better have some jokes and good music recommendations.
Yep.
It's one of those things, like, it doesn't sound hard to do, but I'm sure you've been on the road. I have been on the road with people who are just like, this is horrible. This guy sucks. Like, you know what I mean? He's vaping into his shirt and talking to himself and taking phone calls at full volume. You know, like, what the hell, dude? Like, this is not happening, man. I don't care what benefits we're getting out of this. We're definitely not. You know, let's find the next Greyhound or airport.
I was going to say, so I didn't even see you in the Shiner van, but apparently you've been in the Shiner van.
Huh. Oh my God. I've yeah. I wish I've threatened the like, hey, let's get them a one-way ticket. We can figure this out ourselves. Then you guys would work. Like, just one-way tickets. It would be so much cheaper and our lives would be easier. We'll all enjoy tomorrow's drive so much better if we just get this guy out. But that has not happened yet. But
I think we only sent one person home.
Okay.
One person went home. But I think at that point,
but they needed to.
It was mutual at that point. So it was, we were happy to see them go and they were happy to leave. So everybody wins.
That's what you want. That's the art of the deal, I think, as they would says. Yeah. So how do you go from playing in bands to then teching? I want to talk more about the bands, but I'm just curious. That's an interesting, in terms of a Hyphenate life. You know, I mean, it's something that obviously, from playing guitar, you can do it, the skills there, but as a job, it's a different thing.
I had started playing in a band. So I was in Every Time I Die at the time and playing bass in that band. And the singer from Every Time I Die, Keith, started a project with two of the guys from Anthrax, two of the guys from Fall Out Boy. And then they needed a bass player. So I was like, well, I'll do it. Just kind of threw my hat into the ring without being asked. Sure. And so I met Joe from Fall Out Boy and Andy and Scotty Ian and Rob Caggiano. But I bonded pretty quickly with Joe from Fall Out Boy. And we did another little side band together. And then they decided that Fall Out Boy was going to get back together because they were on hiatus at that time. And he was like, hey, come be my guitar tech. You know about this shit. You've been touring long enough. You know how to do this. And I was like, oh. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Because at the time I was doing production assistant stuff for commercials and TV in New York.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I got tired of being on tour but it's funny because I got the production assistant job and my first job, I was like, I'm tired of road cases and airports and all this shit. And my first job as a production assistant was doing a commercial at an airport, sitting in a truck full of cases. And I was like, what did I do?
No! Get away from this.
I made the weirdest,
genetically tied
move
to flight cases. Yeah.
So I started teching for Fall Out Boy.
Did you ever stay in that hotel in Amsterdam that was all made out of road cases?
Oh no, but now I want to.
It was like a nightmare because I forget what the hell it was called, but it was like the Rock and Roll Hotel, and we played the Paradiso, and they were nice enough. The promoter was nice enough, to put us up for accommodations for the night. But literally, the rooms it was like a snare drum as like the light, the light shone through the skin, the drum head, and then all of the like drawers, were made out of like flight cases. The beds were made out of like flight case material with like those like knobs and things. It was just like, it's like I'm sleeping in a flight case now. Like this is such a nightmare. Like they have no idea how not rock and roll this is. Like how
this is
unsettling this nightmare come to life is.
Hopefully there was a Marshall fridge in the room.
Oh God, it felt like that. Yeah. It was all of those. It was all of those things. Okay, so going to tech. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, if you're basically PAing, on stuff, and you might as well be with your friends,
Yeah, and the money was better, and you go fly around the world, and go to more places than I'd been touring in my own music stuff. So, it was cool, and I still actually have to go do a show with them this weekend. Not working for Joe anymore. I'm working for Pete now, which is great because I get a flamethrower bass to tech. That's pretty wild.
You've gotten to expand your resume into a pyro and combustible gases. That's wild. I mean, yeah, and exactly. I mean, a band like that too. I'm sure there's enough comfort in what in the way they travel and how they the crew is treated well. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's all like buses aren't packed full of people. Like there's junk bunks, and they take care of the crew really well. So it was kind of shocking to see how some other bands treat their crew after starting with a band that treats their crew really well.
I would imagine, yeah. Because then, once you get into the run of it, then when that tour ends, do you think, okay, well, I can get picked up on another run, because it's sort of a pirate life. Like you meet enough tour managers and people, then like you're like, oh yeah, here I could put you on this one next week, or put you on this one for the next 6 months.
I was pretty lucky. I went right from Fall Out Boy to working for that band Volbeat, and somehow it all worked out pretty well. It's weird because right now I'm in a spot where I've been working for mainly Fall Out Boy and Kings of Leon have been my two big jobs that keep me employed most of the time. So I've been so busy with those bands that people kind of forget that I'm not just working for them, and I do other like Sleater Kinney and whoever, Band of Horses. But I'm so busy with those bands that people kind of forget to even ask me about stuff. And both cycles have just ended. So we'll see what we'll see what happens.
Downtime.
Yeah, I'm free in the wind now.
The touring techs lament. Yeah, no, I mean I have a lot of friends that do this, and there's always that thing of like, hey, the techs like, just so everybody knows, I'm available for barbecues and parties, like letting you know I'm tech avail here for anything you got coming up, anything social events. But plug me in, please. I don't want to be stuck alone here.
Pretty much,
myself in my house. Yeah, that's wild. And as tech, it's funny. I've never employed a guitar tech, but I imagine it's mostly at the point when the band becomes too big to go out there and plug their guitar in. They need the pop to happen. Like as soon as when the talent's on stage, then the show starts.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're a band that has that kind of reaction from the audience, then you basically need to hire somebody to go plug the guitar in, and then it escalates from there in terms of duties. But the main reason a band would need a guitar tech or drum tech is someone to set the gear up, do the sound check, or at least build and break down gear,
like fix things when things go wrong during the show, or
I see.
Most of the bands that I work for, and this isn't meant to be a slight, but they wouldn't even know how to turn their gear on.
Okay, yeah.
So
when at some point too, with it's a scalability issue too. Like if you're playing in a club for 200 people or for 20 people, it's a guitar into a cable, maybe you got a couple pedals into an amp. But then when you play venues that are designed for sporting events, and your stage is rather large, and you get into wireless scenarios, and then you have to have routers and redundancies and backups and things.
Oh yeah,
it's no longer playing guitar the way you play the way 90% of the world plays guitar in their garage or basement or bedroom. It's now you're playing guitar in a sports arena.
It's so strange.
It's not guitar in that way anymore. Now we've changed it to something different. Am I embellishing that, or is that about right?
No, that's exactly correct. And that's funny because I was looking on Instagram earlier today and I saw a post about doing like the knot around the tuner before you like wind the string. And I fucking hate the knot. Most of the techs that I know hate the knot because you've clearly never broken a string at a show and like try to change it in a hurry. And with the knot, that's not happening. So it can be a drag.
I do the over under and then then pull it up.
Yeah.
That seems to be enough to cinch it in there.
Over, it's totally
under, sit and then pull it up, and then you don't really even God. I probably should have had a guitar tech. I've broken so many strings on stage. I think as I've gotten older, I've stopped doing that. Somehow I've developed a softer hand. But that like string break in the middle of the show, like I can probably swap out when we were going, I had about under a minute.
Nice.
Like because I always tuck a pack of Ernie Ball strings to like the side of the amp, like in the side handles,
just ready
tuck
to
it
go.
In there. As soon as it breaks, I try to get through that song, and then like Dean will see it, and I'll kind of wave it around, and then undo it real quick, and boom, up and in, and then in tuned. If you can get it, under a minute's probably been my best. I tried giving it to audience people for a while. I was trying to figure out who's my like guitar knowledgeable person in the front. This would be a fun audience experiences and engagement. Like can they change the string real quick? It was not good. The amount of
I can see it going like the
overconfidence,
the tuning peg, and
even that would have been great. Yeah, usually it's just like I look down at them halfway through the next song. I'm playing the backup guitar, and I'm like, "Okay, are you ready to go?" And they're just like still holding the string and looking at the guitar. I'm like, that was bad. I shouldn't. I'm going to stop doing this. And it's not their fault. It's like I just pick some random person assuming they would know how to put a string on a guitar, and if you've never done it,
you look guitarish. Here,
that's what I was thought. Yeah. Then realize I'm the asshole. Like, oh, this will be fun. This will be fun for you. You get to put a thing on there. It's like, brains breaking. God damn, I'm holding this. I hope I don't break this. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is going horribly wrong. And so, yeah, that's incredible. So yeah, mostly string breaks. But is everybody on wireless? Is that a big thing you have to work through?
For Fall Out Boy, yes. With Kings of Leon, I checked for Caleb, the singer. I just switched him over to wireless, and we just did our full like run, like two tours with the wireless, and it worked great. It's always a little nerve wracking, but it is what it is, and I hate it when people say that, but it's a foible of the job. If he wants to be able to move around on the stage, I can't keep him tethered with a 30-foot cord.
Yeah.
So
it makes no one's life easier being cabled in. Like once
and it's like
in, it's just
the switch is like when I give him his acoustic, it's quicker and all that jazz. So whatever, it's fine.
That makes sense. Do you follow this guy? He's kind of calmed down a little bit, but he was. I think he was an Italian guy that was obsessed with the AC/DC early wireless system. He felt that there was like a preamp kind of boost to it, and he like put him in a box. And what was that
Dallas
name? Solo Dallas, yes.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Did you try it? Did you look at it? I mean, it seemed I went down the rabbit hole with it. I was like, oh, AC/DC, okay, I'm willing to listen, and it's it's my kind of nerd tech stuff. I was like, but I don't think it makes a difference. I can't tell.
I never tried it. I've watched a bunch of videos about it. I saw that there's even like a pedal version of it now. I have a friend who tried it, says it's amazing. But he likes a lot of things that might not really do anything. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah. But, I mean, at some point, it's really like, are your ears good enough to even know? That's where I run into that a lot. Like with recording stuff and everything, it's like we're going to, anything less than 10% noticeable. Is it even really noticeable?
Yeah. It's like I was worried about having like multiple delay pedals, and a friend of mine was like, "Dude, nobody gives a shit but you." And I was like,
for delay,
right. Or like just
for delay, yeah.
But like just having it be exactly like the record or this or that.
Oh god,
like,
yeah. The bucket brigade chips.
Nobody can hear this. Delay. Nobody cares. Yeah,
that's hilarious. It's true though, right? But delay is one of those things. Yeah, you definitely can just like get down. And then, are you triggering stuff in time? A lot of times, I guess, depending on the artist. But like, are you like turning effects on and off in the song? Because obviously their pedal board is not their feet usually, right? It's like
I did for Pete, I do his effects changing. For Caleb, I would just go to the next song. He doesn't have a lot of changes in the songs.
But he has a different
set of like
song.
Yeah, he's kind of like a set. Like this song is the reverb and the MXR micro amp or whatever. Like it's pretty much like that. There's a couple songs where he switches mid song, but they didn't really play him on this run. When I used to tech for Joe in Fall Out Boy, I did all of his switching because the stage was so big, and there was like this huge thrust that went out, I don't know, 150, 200 feet or whatever. So he would never be able to make it back in time for any switches. So I would have to do everything.
That's wild. So, yeah, it makes sense. Wild. Yeah, I saw what was. I mean, it sounds like you're familiar with the folks from Anthrax, but it was Scott was doing the pitch shifting. Pantera for the Pantera with oh my god, my brain
for Zakk Wylde.
Yeah, for Zakk Wylde's like pitch shifting thing for the Daryl parts. Yeah, or Dimebag.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh my god,
it's wild. They have like a crew. Like I pretty much only watch YouTube now. I don't really watch regular TV at all anymore.
Sure, yeah.
So I've been watching the Pantera crew videos, and they have a dude that just does Zakk's guitars, and then they have Dime's old tech who does the amps and the sounds.
Oh,
that's so wild to me. Yeah, like that they would just. I don't know. Maybe does the guitar guy feel like slighted? Is he glad? I don't know. Like it's weird to me that like you can't. It's the job is broken up in such a way where you can just be like, oh, that's on him. That's not my fault. That broke.
That's the amp side, not the guitar side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably some of it, like at some point crew does become family. And if you're going to do the reunion thing, you know what I mean? It's probably they want him with them. And in some ways it's kind of, especially with a deceased member and a whole thing. I mean, sure. There's all kinds of other politics and stuff of just support and supporting that crew. That probably makes more sense for them.
It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach Wild. It's fucking
Hey,
Zach Wild, bro. It's yeah. I love the rig rundowns. The hot topic that always feels, it gets kicked around every once in a while. I just had Ben Adrian from Line 6 on,
mhm.
and he was one of the engineers, one of the many engineers that did the Helix and the first,
Yep.
sort of like amp modeling stuff. Like, where are you at with amp modeling in terms of your own personal life, and then in work life?
Well, I used it for Fallout Boy. I used a Helix for Pete. His whole setup is wireless to an HX Stomp, and
Wow.
that's it, into like a DI. And it sounds great, and it's super easy to use. Um, I just got a Fractal FM9 because I have so many pedal changes with Shiner. It's like I didn't have enough feet to do everything I wanted to do at the time.
Yeah.
So initially I had built this RJM board with just all my pedals. And I was like, fuck, this is kind of boring though. Like I can't change anything. It's kind of the same all the time. And so I got like bummed out by that and I sold all that shit. And I mean, I have a ton of pedals that I
Sure.
still can't stop using. But I'm back to the FM9 because Failure sounded so good on that last run they did. And they were just using the Fractal stuff. And I was like, God damn it. This is so boring. It's like with the guitar. I went around the
Yeah.
world to come back to a Les Paul, and now I've had every stupid amp and pedal. And I'm like, well, this Fractal sounds pretty good. And it's so not what I want to do. Like, I still need cabs behind me. I still need domination through amplification. But I I don't know. It's the stuff is getting, it sounds better and it's wild. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's what,
It's
yeah. If it
it's not
at the end of the day, it's about what hits your ears and what hits the
yeah,
audience's
yeah,
ears. I mean, that's really why you're
yeah.
doing all of this stuff. I mean, I think we fetishize these, like, breaking days of hauling, 8-10 cabs up and down stairs for house parties for 20 people,
Yeah,
20 people
fully.
or something. But it does at some point, you know what I mean? Like, if it just sounds good and makes your life easier, fuck it. Just do that. It
Yeah,
doesn't, like, there's no shame in that game.
it's not
And
fun
it
though.
seems right, right.
But it's also not
I
fun having a drunk guy spill a beer on your pedal board and have it die mid show. That's less fun. So
that's the best. What are you talking about? I had somebody stage dive off my pedal board and just totally knock a knob off of a thing, and I'm like, I need that. Like, I use that every day, and you just like jumped with but he's a skinny kid, probably like a 100-pound kid with the Converse, just like launching off the pedal board. I'm like, oh, okay, now the show's going to go down for a second while I figure out what just happened. Again, it's it's the cost you pay to the rock gods of this whole thing. You're
yeah,
grateful
that's
you get to
true.
do it that way. But yeah, I think I got kind of screwed with being obsessed with the Model T, the Sun Model T, because what I've learned over the years is that the preamp section sounds great, but there's something about the power amp side of things where you really go above 3, that kind of like 4 to 6 position, depending on how big the room is and how cool everybody is and how deaf they're fine with being. You know what I mean? Like, that's really where like you get all like the compression and the low end and the tightness and all this fun stuff that like sound likes to do, but it all comes from that power amp side. So it's really one of these things of like, you're like, well, just turn it down. Like, I don't get it. Why can't you turn it down? I was like, because it doesn't do the thing at the lower volume. And it's not just that I'm trying to kill everybody in the room here. Like, I think this actually sounds good. In fact, that's the whole reason I brought it this far, and the reason I carry this around. And I've dedicated myself to doing it this way. And I remember at some point, in the last few years, it's like the conversation of it always happened was like, what if you just turn down on stage? I was like, okay, I'll play along. Let's turn down. Let's see how it goes. And I played the show, and I was like, I'm not trying to be a baby about it, but it's really one of those things of like, I don't think, like you said, we talked about, flying around and playing shows and all this stuff. It's like, I don't think I would drive 8 hours to go play quiet guitar to people. You know what I mean? It's just not fun. But I had to be honest with myself of like, what is it that I like? It's like, I like playing guitar. Okay. But I like playing loud guitar. Like, that's the fun caveat of doing this. And I thought that was the whole agreement we made with playing venues with PAs that are bolted to the ceilings. And now we can play loud guitar to people in your professional rock club venue.
Yep.
And that has not been the case for many, many years. that no one wants me to go play loud guitar to them in their rock and roll venues. And it's like, you got to turn it down. It's got to be under like, you know, and I just see it for other bands too. Now, like I go to see other shows. I'm just like, this fucking thing is so quiet. Like this is no fun to see. It's no fun to see. Like, okay, I get not playing loud. Okay, I can make that concession. But now if I have to go see bands that I like and just listen to them on like headphone volume, I'm not gonna have a full conversation or hear my neighbor's conversation at full blast. Like,
oh yeah,
what the fuck! I thought we were at a rock concert. Jesus.
That's my rant. I've taken to kind of fooling people because I bring a Hiwatt 100 head with me and 2 412 cabs, but I've been using lately a Quilter, which is infinitely louder than the Hiwatt. But they're just like scared of the Hiwatt. As soon as I turn it on, they're like, "Oh man, can you turn that down?" I'm like, I haven't even played yet.
Sorry,
but the Quilter, they can't see what I'm doing with that, so it's great, and that's 200 watts. So there's more.
That's great. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, people think they know what it is. Anyway, I did get into then the amp in a box. I didn't go full simulations, but you know, just these like amp in a box sort of like things. And we're definitely living the beautiful age of boutique pedals, and like, you know, it's a global economy. Like I love finding, you know, pedals from all over the world that essentially are clones of other things and versions, and you know what I mean. Again, you really realize pretty quickly, like, you know, with early drummers, you know, that you can't really invent anything. It's all just but you can repackage it and you can put it in different forms. And but the basic circuitry is always there. No one's reinventing the wheel. So that once I knew that, then like the amp in the box kind of became interesting in that. Okay, so I can get this high gain thing with it. If I understood, that's how I had to define the parameters of what I was looking for. It's high gain with tight low end compression, you know, something that's going to sag and dip when I get into the low end of stuff, but still like really bright and stuff. So I was looking, you know, was able to try a lot of high gain pedals, and at the end of my pedal chain, like, okay, this is just where the amp would go, and then just plug it in, and then you just plug it into anything. And I found a lot of fun in doing that. I was like, I understood. I just changed the parameters, and and then I get them up. So this last European run, I had 2 Fender DeVilles, and I stacked them on top of the 410, and then ratchet strapped them all together. Because I was like, okay, if it's loud in my ear, that's really the only person I really give a shit about is I want to be really loud right in my ear. If nobody else likes this, then I will do it myself. And so I get it right up to like head. It looks like Conky or some kind of like robot I've built now. And everyone looks scared with that. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm still scaring people. This is good. But the reality is it's, you know, it's under 100 dB probably or close to it. And it's just all that compression and gain is just going right into the, you know, back of my cranium, back of my skull. And it's like, okay, good, perfect. That'll work for me. I can make this work with 2 DeVilles. Sure. You know,
I like to check it by like doing a little chug, and if I can feel it in my pants,
Oh, yes, that's the low end. That's it. The pants, the back of your knees, just kind of like blow. Just kind of vibrates the thing. Of course, that's amazing. I've never heard anybody else reference that. I feel that all the time. And I was like, no, you just got to. There's been times on tour I was like, I just want to pull somebody up, whether it's the sound guy. I've done this with our own front of house guy. He doesn't like it, but I'm just like, just stand right here. Like, stand right here. Like, this is the sound that I am like. I'm doing it for this reason, the way it sounds right here. And he just looks at me like I'm some kind of demon or is like some kind of masochist or something. Like, no, nobody else likes this. I'm like, are you sure no one else likes this? How do I keep getting away with this? Like, am I the villain of this story? I had no idea I was the bad guy.
If nobody likes this, why am I here? How are we here? Yeah, apparently someone likes this.
That's what I keep saying to people. And no, apparently I'm wrong. Okay. I'm the one, but that's fine. But so from bands, was it a matter of, you know, you starting a band and then being asked to join bands and back and forth? I mean, you've been in a number of awesome iconic projects. Like, how have you found that sort of path?
So the first band besides my own that I really played with was Unsane, and my band Glazed Baby had played a show with Unsane. Our bass player took acid before the show, and I looked over and he was just kind of like playing and tuning at the same time, and I was like, oh fuck. Like,
it's that show. It's not the other show.
Yeah. So at the end of the show, I was talking to the bass player at the time, Pete Shore, and I made a joke like, oh, if you guys are ever looking for a second guitar player, like, because I was just so embarrassed that I'd gone that way. And about a month later, somebody called me up and they were like, hey, do you know the songs? And I was like, no, but I'll learn them.
I could. Yeah.
So I jumped in their van, and initially I was selling merch, and we would practice at sound check, and then after a few shows we started playing. I started playing with them. And then it didn't really it was wild because at the time Unsane were one of my favorite bands, and I think Chris, the singer guitar player, felt pressured into like needing a second guitar player from other people, and I don't think he ever really wanted one. Because I mean, they never did it again, so apparently, but it was cool, and I love those guys, and it was awesome, and it was just like I was still pretty young. I think I was maybe like 21 or two at the time, and those dudes are a bit older than me, and I think maybe I annoyed them with my youthful charm. Or at least Chris. But so that just kind of like like I just started. So then I went back to Glaze Baby, and we did another tour. Then I joined Season to Risk playing bass, and that became the bass player in Season to Risk had quit to join and play bass in Shiner. And then after a few years of me playing in Season to Risk, I was like, I'm gonna go be in Shiner too. And I started playing second guitar in Shiner. So and then it just kind of like, I don't know, this band became that band, which like, oh, they need somebody. And it was like, he can learn stuff quick. And I just kind of kept doing that. It was
amazing.
Weird.
Yeah.
But it was like
jumping from project to project, filling in and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like usually the things that I've stayed for years was just supposed to be like a fill in for a tour or two. And then I just wound up not leaving. So, but when it was bands that I wasn't emotionally involved with, like where it wasn't like my thing, and I was just kind of like helping out, that was almost like a good stepping stone to like being a tech. Like teching doesn't feel that much different than just playing support in somebody else's band, except for I'm not standing on stage, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, there was a great story of, I forget what record it was for the Ramones. It was post the Ronettes, anyway, post Phil Spector, Ramones. They had the producer doing like the leads behind the full stack. He would just come in for one or two songs, and, like play like the solos that were on the record. Because Johnny, bless him for all of his talents, it was not a soloer. He was not
that's
a
true.
shredder kind of guy. It was a different kind of machine gun sort of player. But yeah, I mean, as a tech, are you ever asked to play chords or just to kind of strum things and stuff? What's that like?
When I was with the Breeders, they have a song that was on a soundtrack. I don't remember what the song was called, but it was kind of like not a hit, but a hit for them. Like people knew it from the movie. It was that movie Her, about like AI or a robot or a guy being in love or some shit. Yeah. But so they have the solo in one of the songs, but neither Kim nor Kelly can play the solo. So I would come out and just play the solo. I would stand there and wait for the solo, play the solo, and then get off stage. And then that became
but you didn't do it from the side. You actually went out and it was
way more. It was so much more awkward. I went out and stood like behind the amps kind of and just did it.
Funny.
And then it became like, well, do you want to play a little part on this song too? And so I ended up playing a couple songs, but they were never happy with how I played the solo.
That's the worst.
I was like,
I'm trying my best. This wasn't the gig. Yeah, right. Exactly. Beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny. I mean, I feel like it happens to every band, especially if they're, a trio or something. At some point, you just like the guitar player is going to write 2 extra guitar parts and like, okay, well, let's get one guy to try to see if they can.
I mean, I always do it. I never write a song with just one guitar part, unfortunately, so then when I bring it to the band, Alan will write his own guitar part to it. And I'm like, yeah, but
where's my second guy? Yeah.
I guess I have to split this up and learn like somehow do half of each. No, I don't know. But yeah, I can never just write one part.
Yeah, no, it's the guitar player lament. I've done it so many different times in so many different ways. We did the second record we did for Sub Pop. I was using sampling. Dean and I always use a lot of samplers, and so I kind of basically like did a chord, bar chord that filled up a palette of things. And I was like, I can just play the bar chords. That's the rhythm part there. We did a song where I just kind of just doing the rhythm of playing it on the, like Simon Says, on the sampler. Like, okay, here's my 3 chords of this verse, and here's the 2 in the chorus. And so I did it like that almost as an experiment. And it went, and then I wrote a lead part that went over the whole thing. I was like, cool. And then made it on the record, and it came time to play it. And it was just like, I don't know. Like, we've never wanted to really play to a click. You know what I mean? Like, it probably would have helped a lot of things for us to recreate the records. But we ended up hiring a friend to come in and just be sample guy on tour. And at that point, we were making enough money where we could afford another man. But we put him on stage. There was a third man on stage, and it was great. And it helped a lot. And he covered a lot of duties for other songs. But it was that was the main song. Like, that's the one we really need. And then after that tour, came like, okay, well, do we never play those songs again? So then we loaded them up into foot samplers. So these Digitech Jam Mans. So I carry 3 of those with me. And so I kind of have 3 like sample pads that I can run through. So, basically, and then Dean has 2 samplers, and he's got a little kind of dubbed out mixer thing he can do with the stuff. So we basically divided his job after that tour and kind of figure out like, okay, probably don't need all. Do we need the 4th note of that? Probably don't need the 4th note, or we put them on 1 shots. I don't know if you know, so you're not like it's not looping and stuff. You can always restart back to 1. So if we're dragging or rushing, I can always just hit back on 1, and we'll kind of stay on that like wooziness.
I have to actually
to the show.
I need to do the same thing with a song on this new record that we just finished. I played guitarist synth on a couple of things.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
And there's a weird thing where like,
the Yamaha one. Do you have the old Yamaha guitar synth?
No, it was just a pet. It was a electroharmonics pedal actually.
Okay.
And if you hit like a harmonic, it does this weird oscillating thing where the notes go by each other. And that's like kind of one of the main parts of the song now. So I need to like sample that and trigger that whenever it's supposed to happen. So I'm joining that world soon here.
Yeah. My set list always looked like a strange like shopping list, because I have all these numbers written down next to them. And this is the numbers of the pedals. I have like three columns, and they all have numbers. So every song has like a very kind of lost coded sort of thing. Like, why does the song always say number 26 after it? What does that mean?
People on Reddit are trying to figure it out.
Yeah. There's all this like random number coding thing. It's numerology.
I do the same thing with like my tuning, and then an arrow up or down for what the whammy is supposed to do.
Oh my god! Yeah. It's madness. But when it works, when it goes well, it's good. Let me ask you, what's been the biggest fuck up? I'm just just in terms of like, what's the story you tell at Thanksgiving, where when things all went bad, either as a tech or as an artist on stage. I'm just so curious. I mean, you've probably done a million of these things. Like,
teching, nothing really. I'm sure there was something fucking majorly awful. I can't really remember teching. I probably blocked it out. Playing
guitar didn't explode before the show.
Not too long ago. No, even the flammable one hasn't yet.
Okay, knock on wood.
I had my pedal board. Yeah, right. A friend of mine came to see us play in Wichita, and he was super shit hammered, and he knocked one of the monitors off of the subs in front onto my pedal board and just took the whole thing out. I don't know if a cable like got snapped on the out or the in or whatever. So I just kind of had to like, I used my tuner and the volume knob, and that was kind of it. And it was weirdly freeing though. Like as effects based as a lot of what I do is, because I either want it to sound like Steve Jones or Brian Eno. Like that's how I want my guitar to sound. And it's very Brian Eno heavy with the Shiner stuff. And I just kind of had to do the math real quick, like figuring out what would still work. And it was fun. Like I'm not trying to do it again, but I could if I had to. But
yeah, in a pinch, it works. I know we're somewhere, I think in France, and there was a baggage handler strike. So we get off the plane, and the gear will not leave the airport, and we're going straight to sound check, and we're going straight to show. And we're just like, well, what do you mean? We were like, yeah, well, all of that stuff, your pedal boards, your samplers, everything is going to stay at the airport. Like, well, will they deliver it later? And like, probably not. Like, okay, well, let's see how this show goes. And then I think for that one, we just kind of did a punk cover show. You know, like, okay, well, we could probably get away with playing a bunch of Misfit songs and something. We'll figure a couple of Wiper songs or something.
Oh,
like it'll approximate what we're doing. Probably sound better than our normal set.
I flew to a festival in Denmark or something, and my bassist didn't show up. And since I'm left-handed, I had to like walk around this festival trying to find somebody else who was left-handed. And I think like the Dropkick Murphys or somebody like that, some band like that has a lefty bass player. And they were like, yeah, no problem. Like I used this weird bass, and I think they were scared I was going to trash the bass, but I mean, obviously I wasn't going to do that, but
yeah.
And then when I got back to the hotel, my basses were there.
Isn't that nice? That's great. But yeah, just in time. We played a festival in Poland, and all the Dinosaur Jr. gear didn't make it. I think they freight over, like everything. They're coming from Italy to Poland, and they take the full stacks, the 3 full stacks and everything with them, and so it just didn't make it for whatever reason. And so Jay was with the Sub Pop folks in the lobby, and Megan from Sub Pop was like, "Do you have any of these pedals?" And kind of like showed me a list. I was like, "Yes, I have them because Jay Mascis uses those pedals. That's why I have those pedals. at least a large the number of the ones that he's looking for. Yes, and so we right after we played earlier in the day, we just ran over the main stage, and I just kind of gave him my whole pedal board. I was like, yeah, and then I think his tech or whoever figured out what they could use from it, and even just all the cabling and stuff, and rerouted it, and probably with a few other bands. He rigged something together, but it was nice. He gave us a good shout out from the stage, and
That's awesome.
He apologized for how terrible he sounded, but thanked us for letting him borrow gear. And like, okay, I'll take it.
Thank you. Also, you're throwing me under the bus.
Yeah, this is our worst sounding show ever. Sorry, the guitar sounds like garbage. Thank you, Randy, for letting me borrow all your garbage guitar gear. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Yeah, but have any of your when you're teching, do you have a band that ever like just breaks their guitars? It does a full like Townsend on the guitars, and are you expected to do that kind of stuff or no?
No, I'm not a luthier by any means.
Okay.
I could probably glue a headstock back on if I had to. I have the stuff to do it. I've never actually. Maybe I'll take one of my Chibsons and see what I can
there
do.
You go. It's a good chance.
It's more been like amps dying or things like that. Never really anyone breaking anything. Although with the Breeders, they wouldn't bring backup guitars. So, and they didn't want me to change strings.
That's scary.
So every show was me watching, because I teched for the whole band except minus drums. I teched for all the stringed instruments. And they gave me a bag of like ashes and dirt. And they were like, if you have to change the strings, rub this on the strings.
Oh God, I thought it was going to be like this is a loved one's ashes or something.
I mean,
yeah, basically.
It wasn't that far off. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So like I would seriously like rub my face grease on the strings to try to like dull them up or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, I would spend every Breeders show waiting for them to break a string because they just didn't want me to change the strings. And eventually I would just kind of do it in secret anyways, like every fourth show or whatever.
Well, you probably could feel like the weird G or B's are getting rusty, and you're like, this one's going to go. Yeah. You can look at a string long enough. If you're doing it, you could see which ones are no longer.
But they didn't
structurally.
They didn't give a fuck. Like they did not care. They were like,
sure, but that like you could pick which one's going to break every night. Like I've done that too. Like I'll leave a set of strings on for a whole tour if it survives. But I could usually tell which one's about to go, and I'll try to preemptive it. Yeah.
It was a little nerve-wracking.
Oh God!
Yeah, they each brought a Strat and a Les Paul, and that was it.
That's cool, but I'm sure it keeps you on your toes. I mean, it's a wild world.
They're doing something right, so
again, that's the thing, right? It's like, yeah, this is the thing they want to do.
Who am I
to
do it?
Like,
yeah, I'm not trying to assert my will on anyone, about how they do their art. So,
oh my God,
I guess we'll just hope for the best.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hey, maybe these breeders, maybe these deal ladies will turn out all right in the end.
Turns out pretty talented.
It's funny, but before I let you go, I have two stories that I think would just be funny. That with Fall Out Boy, Dean and I from No Age, we played this thing called Friday Night MTV, Friday Night Videos that Pete Wentz. Your boss, he was the host of this like Friday night thing. It was like MTV was going to do this novel thing in like 2010 or 2008 or 2009, somewhere in the late aughts. MTV thought we were going to do this wild thing where we're actually going to show music videos on our channel. And the way they did that is they had Pete like host a show where he was like, and now there's going to be music videos. And it was a live audience. It looked like the MTV Music Awards or something. And there was like a whole live audience of bands. And he'd bring bands out and say, like, what is this thing you're about to show? It's like, it's a music video. Like, wow, it's a music video. And then they'd throw to the music video. And then it was the hilarious kind of like, wasn't that what the whole deal? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? But we were asked if we wanted to do it. And we were nothing at the time. Obviously, it was like just snot on someone's shoe, but we're like, yeah, this was kind of part of the joke, I think, for us to just be like, can we get into all these weird celebrity parties? Like, what if we were on MTV? What if we did this? Like, how hilarious would that be? And I remember we were on tour because we just toured nonstop at that time, and I found this like puffy paint, like zip up hoodie sweatshirt at a thrift store. It looked like a mom decoupaged, kind of this like glitter puffy paint sweater. I was like, I'm gonna wear this on MTV. I knew this was coming up when we got home the next day. So like, okay, this is my MTV wardrobe, and I wore this crazy like thing, and it was actually really fun. But the show was us, hosted by Pete Wentz, and it was No Age, some band called Maroon 5, and this other artist called Rihanna. So No Age, and Maroon 5, and Rihanna all being hosted, all being welcomed by Mr. Pete Wentz onto this stage with a live audience. And I did the whole like ran down the line, like gave every kid in the front a high five, and they didn't care.
Yes,
but they were told to applaud. They were told like, yeah, everybody go crazy. And I imagine they know what the other bands are, but we're just the opening guys, and we kind of just did all high fives. And, yeah, I really leaned into it.
Amazing.
So he was really nice. He was really. I mean, it was the show wasn't his idea. I'm sure he just got hired for a gig.
Yeah,
and it was fun.
He's like the nicest dude. I had seen those guys in the media before I ever met any of them, and I was like, these fucking guys. But they ended up being like the nicest dudes in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. And again, like it's that kind of the lot in life. You know what I mean? Like you do a thing, and then no one's really in control of it if it gets popular or not.
Yeah, and like it's not his fault entirely that he was a little overexposed there for a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the opportunities he had, he took a swing at every opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think most folks would.
Right? So. Yeah, it's hilarious. So that was the Pete Wentz story. But then someone did print out. Someone took a screenshot of it and printed it out and wheat pasted it at this club, this all ages club where we started and still play, called The Smell. The front of it, they wheat pasted it. And so it was kind of like, oh, like, look at these guys, they sold out. And in my mind, I'm just like wearing this weird thrift store thing. I'm just like being goofy and kind of drunk. And I was like, I don't know if that's really selling out, guys. Like that's a pretty, like, okay, if that's the worst thing we ever do in life, I'll take it. The sin's on me. You're right. I did it. I'll apologize for that if someone's really offended by this.
Yeah, that's not
a hilarious thing. Like,
you could do a lot worse than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Holding a microphone on stage next to a member of Fall Out Boy is not my most shameful moment of my career or my life.
Yes, exactly.
But the other thing too, you talk about Kings of Leon. At some point, they did a color faded shirt, and I think No Age had this shirt where we like went from one color, fill to another. It was something that Dean's brother, who owns a silkscreen shop, Dean and him worked out. Like if you put you blend them all together and it looks cool. Mm-hmm. We didn't invent that. You know what I mean? It's been done for decades. It's an old printing technique. But Kings of Leon did that with one of their shirts, and it was a big text block thing. And I think people automatically started asking us, like, "Oh, is that your thing?" And this was of the age of Pitchfork, and when people thought there was something worth starting beef about, like these bands cared. Mm-hmm. And so people wrote to us, and I think Dean kind of took it on like, what? Someone said they're ripping us off. Like, that's bullshit. Fuck that or something. But it was the kind of thing of like, well, nobody, like, whatever anybody said about anything, but it was a really funny thing. And I remember that was our Kings of Leon touching a fame. But I felt like at the time it was almost like it was encouraged by the PR machine of it all. Of like, do you have any comment about this thing? Like, you want to make a statement? Like, why does anybody care? No, there's no statements to be made.
Look at like an Oasis Blur thing happening.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it was never going to happen. These guys were already playing stadiums and we were still trying to get out of our 100 cap, basement club things into something else. So no, there was no, but it was really funny. But anyway, that was Kings of Leon.
That's so good. Actually, I forget what year it was, maybe 2004 or something. I was playing in a band and we were the first band on the main stage at Reading Festival. And Kings of Leon were actually headlining that night. So it's just kind of a funny, 20 years later kind of thing.
Yeah.
That Hey, I opened up for you guys.
Yeah.
With
Were they
40
cool?
bands between us.
Yeah, exactly. Were they cool? No, they probably weren't even there. They're probably all
Oh
still
no,
asleep.
they
That's
were
all. It wasn't
definitely
like that
not,
interaction at
absolutely
all.
not there at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
no chance they were there.
Yeah, yeah, that's the funniest thing. Yeah, we did a tour with the band before No Age. We had a band, and we opened for Gibby Haynes from Butthole Surfers for his solo thing up and down the West Coast. And I remember really the snotty young band, probably 22 years old, and like Gibby doesn't even come to see us play the opening band. And I remember after the last show, he's like, "Dudes, I'm just getting dinner. I don't know, like what the fuck." The fuck's wrong? Like, sorry, I didn't see you guys play. I mean, I thought you guys were cool. I'm glad you guys are playing the shows, but it's not my fault. I'm not, watching the opening band every night. And
Yeah.
then, again, fast forward 20 years later, and it's like, cool. All right, well, we're done sound check. Let's go grab some food. And like, oh shit, we didn't make it back for the opener. Like, god damn. And then I was like, I'm guilty of this myself. Like, what? Look how the world has turned. I can't.
Let's go be anywhere but here right now.
Right. Yeah. You've been doing this, you've paid your dues. You're a man in your 50s, looking to have something of a career, still holding on to a thing. And you're like, oh God, okay. Like, is this really what I need to get shit on by these kids? I asked that no one knows I asked to open. Anyway, it all comes back around. I love in hindsight, just these stories. It's like, but I think that was the whole part of it is you're supposed to be these dumb kids and you would never become, older, smarter people if you didn't have all your dumb stuff you did as a kid.
I've really tried to avoid it. So,
well, good job.
Staying dumb and immature.
That's it. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad we're able to do this. Sorry I took up so much of your time.
No, I appreciate it. I had a good time.
Yeah. I hope things are good. Where do you want people to follow you and pester you if they have more questions and want to talk about things like this?
I guess Instagram at J Newton. That's me, and I'm probably posting stupid shit, guitars and pedals and stuff like that.
I mean, sorry, I keep asking. I want a guitar nerd out for one more. The Eddie Van Halen Brown box. Have you ever used this on for one of your artists or for yourself? Like
I don't.
The voltage.
The other guitar player in Kings of Leon does use one of those on his amp, and I think it's actually been making his amp chew through tubes. Like, when you drop the voltage down, it makes the amp work harder. And I think it's just been chowing through tubes since they started using that thing.
Wow. But does it sound better? Again, is that more than 10% better? Is it under that,
Yeah. It still sounds fucking rad, but I don't know if the trade-off is worth it when you have to roll around with 4 of these amps because one of them will die, or at least 2 of them will die. But
wow.
It's
good to know.
It's however you got to do weird shit to get your sound sometimes. Even though he is the guitar player, Matt from Kings of Leon, is still so punishingly loud. It's insane. And I respect it.
That's awesome. It's good to know. I wouldn't expect it with that. Yeah. Well, maybe his sex is on fire. It just, he needs the volume to
and he's the only one that's not on ears. So he's just monitors, amp. It's just like, if you walk in his zone, your head is going to get cut off. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's another way to phrase that. He's the reason everyone else is on ears, is what you mean.
Yes, very much so.
He's not the only one who's not on them. He's the reason everybody else is on them. That's how it works. Yeah, amazing, awesome. Well, Josh, I appreciate it. Jay Newton on Instagram, and then what about for music projects? Is there a music project you want to shout out?
Yeah, we got Shiner doing a new record, or the record is completed. It's going to be out, I think, probably early next year. I'm sure there'll be an onslaught of trying to sell records on my social media. So, I don't know. Playing some Shiner shows in December, like middle of the country stuff, some flyover state shows. Just awesome. Still doing the thing.
Cool. Awesome. It sounds good, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you.
Radical. Josh, you are the best. Thank you so much for jumping on. It was really great getting to sit down and nerd out and talk more. If you would like to follow Josh on the Instagrams, it's at J Newton. That's JNEWTON. And he posts all kinds of great stuff. Great aluminum necked guitars and funny posts and pictures and music, all the stuff you'd expect. And there, also from his Instagram, you can get to his Linktree, where you can find all things in the Shiner store, Shiner music, Shiner merchandise, and also Sie Lieben Maschinen music and Sie Lieben Maschinen merchandise. Go follow Josh on the Instagrams and go to the Linktree to find more things so you can buy and support. It's also his Shiner is at Shiner KC, and then oh my gosh, can I do this? Sie Lieben Maschinen is at SIELIEBENMASCHINEN. Or just go to the Linktree. Just go find him on Instagram at JNewton. Thank you, Josh, for being here. I appreciate it. Everybody, have a safe and fun and warm Halloween this evening. I hope all of your spooky dreams come true. I hope the ghost and ghoul follows you home and you're haunted for the rest of the season. You'll be hanging around, Thanksgiving, having to make an extra plate of food for whatever random spooks that haunt around your table and your doorsteps. I'm tired. I need more coffee. Oh, yeah. We got coffee guest coming up. Clint Woodside from Deadbeat Club Books and Coffee is coming up. And I just got his subscription. Got a big bag of coffee in the mail and just ground it up. I need to drink more of that. That's what I need. All right. Got a long night ahead of us. Be safe. Have fun out there. I will see you on Monday with a whole Halloween wrap up. All right. Ooh.
My older sister was pretty goth. So there was a lot of the Joy Division and, Bauhaus.